Imagine you're a young governess, desperate for work, standing in a foggy London street in 1890, clutching a letter offering a dream job, good pay, a grand house, everything perfect. But there's a catch. They want you to cut your hair, wear a specific dress, and sit by a window for hours doing nothing. Creepy, right? What's the catch? Why the odd rules, and who's watching from the shadows? Welcome to Sherlock Holmes and the Secrets of the Copper Beeches, where the world's greatest detective unravels a chilling mystery at a strange country estate. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson dive into a case filled with weird requests, locked rooms, and dark secrets that could turn deadly. So, grab a cozy blanket, hit that like button, and let's step into the fog with Holmes to uncover the truth. The London fog curls thick around Baker Street, its damp chill creeping through the windows of 221B as Sherlock Holmes lounges in his armchair, his violin resting on his knee. It's a chilly spring morning in 1890, and Dr. John Watson, his loyal friend, sips tea by the fire, flipping through a newspaper. "Holmes, it's too quiet." Watson grumbles, his voice half joking. "No murders, no mysteries, don't you ever get bored?" Holmes' sharp eyes glint, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Boredom, Watson, is the enemy of the mind. But fear not, London always delivers. As he speaks, a sharp knock echoes at the door, cutting through the morning's calm. Watson jumps and Holmes' smile widens. "There, you see? The game is afoot." The fog outside seems to hold its breath, and Holmes senses a mystery stirring in the mist. The door swings open and a young woman steps in, her face pale but determined, her auburn hair pinned neatly under a modest hat. "Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson." "I'm Violet Hunter," she says, her voice steady despite her nervous hands. "I need your help, something's not right." Holmes leans forward, his fingers steepled, his gaze piercing. "Sit, Miss Hunter, and tell us everything." She explains she's a governess, recently offered a job by a man named Jephro Rucastle at his estate, the Copper Beeches in Hampshire. The pay is generous, £100 a year, far more than usual, but the terms are bizarre. He wants me to cut my hair short, wear a blue dress, and sit by a window at specific times. Reading aloud, she says, her brow furrowing. "It's odd, Mr. Holmes, and I feel uneasy." Watson looks puzzled. "That's peculiar, but is it dangerous?" Holmes' eyes narrow. "Peculiarity, Watson, often hides danger." "Proceed, Miss Hunter." Violet continues, describing Rucastle as a jovial, heavy-set man with a booming laugh. But his wife seemed cold, her eyes watchful. "They have a 6-year-old son, Edward, who's to be my charge," she says. "But he's cruel, pulls wings off insects." She mentions a maid, Mrs. Toller, who seemed nervous, and a grim butler, Mr. Toller, who barely spoke. The strangest part was Rucastle's insistence on the window sitting. He said it's to entertain a neighbor, but his smile felt wrong, Violet says, shivering. Holmes leans back, his mind racing. "Did you notice anything else, Miss Hunter?" "A detail." However small, she hesitates, then pulls out a letter from Rucastle, confirming the job. "There was a dog," she adds, "a huge mastiff, always, chained near the stables. It looked half-starved." Holmes' fingers tap his chair. A dog, a dress, a window most curious. Holmes examines the letter, its bold handwriting neat but forceful, signed with a flourish. This Rucastle is confident, he murmurs, but confidence breeds mistakes. He asks Violet about her plans. "I need the money," she admits, "but I'm scared. Should I take the job?" Holmes' eyes gleam. "Take it, Miss Hunter, but be our eyes and ears. Send word of anything odd." Watson looks alarmed. "Holmes, you're sending her into danger." Holmes' smile is grim. Danger, Watson, is where the truth hides. Miss Hunter is sharp she'll manage. Violet nods, her resolve firming. I'll write to you, Mr. Holmes, every day. She leaves, her figure fading into the fog, and Holmes turns to Watson. This is no ordinary job, Watson. Something sinister brews at the Copper Beeches. Holmes paces, his mind dissecting. Violet's story, the hair, the dress, the window, they suggest a performance, he says. But for whom and why? He suspects Rucastle is hiding something, perhaps using Violet as a decoy. The dog is a clue. He adds, chained, starved, a guard for something valuable. Watson frowns. A child, a dog, a strange request, it's bizarre, Holmes. Holmes nods, his fingers reaching for his pipe. Bizarre, yes, but patterns emerge. We wait for Miss Hunter's first letter. He lights his pipe, the smoke curling like the fog outside. His thoughts already at the Copper Beeches. That evening, Holmes and Watson sit by the fire, the silence heavy with anticipation. Holmes sketches a map of Hampshire, noting the Copper Beeches isolation. 5 miles from the nearest village, he murmurs, perfect for secrets. Watson tries to read, but his eyes keep drifting to Holmes. What's Rucastle hiding? He asks. Holmes exhales a cloud of smoke. A secret worth staging a charade, Watson. Perhaps a person, perhaps a crime. A telegram arrives from Violet, sent from Winchester. Arrived safely. House grand but eerie. Rucastle cheerful, wife cold. Dog growls at night. Window task starts tomorrow. Holmes' eyes gleam. The game begins, Watson. We must be ready. The fog thickens outside, wrapping Baker Street in mystery. Holmes leans back, his pipe glowing, his mind racing through the clues. Violet's strange job. The blue dress, the window, the chained mastiff. The Copper Beeches holds a secret, and Holmes is determined to uncover it. We're just stepping into this creepy mystery, with Holmes sniffing out trouble at the Copper Beeches. What's Rucastle hiding? Why the weird rules for Violet? Stick with us for Chapter 2, where Violet's letters reveal chilling secrets that pull Holmes and Watson into the heart of danger. If you're hooked on this foggy whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. What's your guess about Rucastle's game? Let's solve this with Holmes. The London fog lingers like a ghostly curtain, wrapping Baker Street in a damp hush as Sherlock Holmes sits by the fire into 1B. His sharp eyes scanning a map of Hampshire. It's a chilly spring evening in 1890, and a strange case of Violet. Hunter, the governess hired under bizarre conditions at the Copper Beeches, has set his mind ablaze. Dr. John Watson, his loyal friend, paces near the window, clutching Violet's telegram from Winchester. Arrived safely. House grand but eerie. Rucastle cheerful, wife cold. Dog growls at night. Window task starts tomorrow. Holmes, this job sounds like a trap, Watson says, his voice edged with worry. Holmes' lips curve into a faint smile, his tone calm, but keen. A trap, Watson, is only dangerous if you don't see it coming. Miss Hunter is our eyes, and her letters will light the way. The clues Violet's our job offer. Jephro Rucastle's letter demanding she cut her hair, wear a blue dress and sit by a window, the chained mastiff. And now the eerie telegram hint at a dark secret buried in the Hampshire estate. The fog outside hums with mystery, and Holmes is ready to unravel the whispers from the Copper Beeches. Holmes begins by re-examining Violet's telegram, its brief words heavy with unease. The dog growls at night. He murmurs, tapping the paper, a guard, perhaps, for something hidden. Watson frowns, settling into his chair. A dog and a dress, what's Rucastle playing at? It's creepy, Holmes. Holmes nods, his fingers steepled. Creepy, yes, but purposeful. The hair, the dress, the window, they suggest a masquerade. But for whom? He suspects Violet is being used as a stand-in. possibly to deceive someone watching the house. The letter from Rucastle, with its bold handwriting, lies on the table, and Holmes studies it again, noting its commanding tone. This man is confident. He says, but confidence hides secrets. He sketches a layout of the Copper Beeches from Violet's description of Grand House, isolated, with stables and a locked wing she wasn't shown. The next morning a letter arrives from Violet, postmarked, from the Copper Beeches. Holmes tears it open, his eyes scanning her neat handwriting. Mr. Holmes, she writes, the house is beautiful, but feels wrong. Mr. Rucastle is all smiles, but his eyes watch me. Mrs. Rucastle barely speaks, and their son, Edward, is cruel. Yesterday he threw a stone at a bird. The maid, Mrs. Toller, seems scared, and Mr. Toller, the butler, drinks heavily. Today I started the window task. I sat in a blue dress, my hair cut short, reading aloud by the drawing-room window for an hour. Mr. Rucastle watched, clapping like it's a show, but I saw a man in the trees outside, staring. The mastiff growled from the stables, and I heard a strange noise from the locked wing upstairs, a creak, like footsteps. Watson's eyes widen. Footsteps. Someone's in that wing, Holmes. Holmes' gaze sharpens. Indeed, Watson. A prisoner, perhaps, for something Rucastle hides. Holmes paces, his mind dissecting Violet's letter. The man in the trees is key, he says. He watches because of the charade. Violet is impersonating someone. Watson looks puzzled. Impersonating? But why cut her hair? Holmes lights his pipe, the smoke curling like his thoughts. Her auburn hair, Watson, it's distinctive. Rucastle wants her to match someone else, seen from afar. He suspects the locked wing holds the answer, possibly a person Rucastle is concealing. The mastiff guards the stables, Holmes adds, but also the wing's entrance, I wager. He pulls out the Hampshire map, marking the Copper Beeches. Isolation 5 miles from the nearest village, perfect for secrets. We need more from Miss Hunter. He says, but we prepare to act. Holmes writes to Violet, urging her to sketch the house's layout and note the man in the trees. Appearance. Be cautious, Miss Hunter, he adds, but observe everything. He sends the letter express, then turns to Watson. We must visit Winchester, Watson, but discreetly. Rucastle must not suspect. Watson nods, his worry growing. What's in that wing? Holmes, the crime. Holmes' eyes gleam. A crime, a captive, or both? The Copper Beeches is a stage, and we will uncover its players. He studies the telegram again, noting the mastiff's growls. A starved dog is a desperate guard, he murmurs, and desperation betrays. That afternoon, Holmes visits a contact at the Winchester Land Registry, digging into the Copper Beeches history. He learns the estate belongs to Jephro Rucastle, inherited from his father, but rumors swirl of debts and a missing daughter, Alice, who vanished years ago. Alice, Holmes murmurs, his mind racing. Could Violet be her double? Watson looks stunned. A missing daughter? That's dark. Holmes. Holmes nods, pocketing a registry note mentioning a sealed wing added a decade ago. Rucastle hides someone, perhaps Alice. He says, the blue dress, the herits to fool the man in the trees. He suspects the watcher is a friend, or lover of Alice, kept at bay by the charade. Back at 1B, another letter arrives from Violet. Her words urgent. Mr. Holmes, the man in the trees, appeared again tall, with dark hair and a sad face. I sketched the house as you asked. The locked wing has a barred window, and I heard a woman's voice humming last night. Mr. Rucastle caught me near the wing and got angry, saying it's storage. The dog nearly broke its chain when I passed the stables. I'm scared, but I'll keep watching. Holmes studies the sketch, showing a large house with a tower wing, its door near the stables. A barred window and a woman's voice. He says, his voice low, we must go to the Copper Beeches. Watson. Watson grips his revolver. Tomorrow. Holmes nods. Tomorrow, before Rucastle's game turns deadly. Holmes prepares for the trip, packing his lock-picking tools and a lantern. The mastiff is a problem, he tells Watson, but a starved beast can be bribed. He buys a slab of meat, planning to distract the dog. The fog outside Baker Street thickens, mirroring the mystery. Rucastle plays a dangerous game, Holmes says, but he underestimates Miss Hunter and us. The clues Violet's strange tasks, the chained mastiff, the locked wing. The man in the trees point to a secret Rucastle will kill to protect. Holmes' mind is a steel trap, ready to spring. We're diving deeper into the eerie secrets of the Copper Beeches, with Violet's letters painting a chilling picture. Who's in the locked wing? What's the man in the trees after? Stick with us for Chapter 3, where Holmes and Watson venture to Hampshire and face a dangerous night at the estate. If you're hooked on this creepy mystery, smash that like button, subscribe and drop a comment below. What's Rucastle hiding? Let's solve this with Holmes. The London fog gives way to the crisp Hampshire air as Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson step off a train in Winchester, their bags packed with tools for a dangerous night ahead. It's a chilly spring evening in 1890, and the strange case. A Violet Hunter, the governess caught in a bizarre job at the Copper Beeches, has drawn them to this isolated estate. Holmes clutches Violet's latest letter. Its words chilling. A man watching from the trees, a locked wing with a barred window, and a woman's humming echoing in the night. Holmes, this place sounds like a prison, Watson says, his voice low as they board a carriage to the estate. Holmes' sharp eyes gleam, his tone calm but edged with steel. A prison, Watson, or a stage for Rucastle's dark game. Tonight, we uncover the truth, the clues Violet's odd tasks. Jephro Rucastle's letter demanding her haircut and a blue dress worn, the chained mastiff. The man in the trees, the locked wing, and the hint of a missing daughter, Alice Point. To a sinister secret. The Hampshire hills loom dark, and Holmes is ready to face the shadows at the Copper Beeches. The carriage rattles along a lonely road, the estate's silhouette rising against the twilight, its copper-colored trees glowing eerily. Holmes reviews. Violet's sketch of the house, a grand mansion with a tower wing. Its door near the stables where the mastiff growls. The dog is our first challenge. Holmes murmurs, patting the slab of meat in his bag. Watson grips his revolver, his face tense, and if Rucastle catches us, he's no fool, Holmes. Holmes' smile is grim. Fools don't hide secrets this well, Watson, but they do make mistakes. He suspects Violet is impersonating Alice, Rucastle's missing daughter, to deceive the man in the trees, perhaps a suitor or ally. The humming woman in the wing. Holmes says she's the key. Alice, I wager, is alive and locked away. They reach the Copper Beeches as night falls, the house dark except for a single lit window. Holmes signals Watson to stay low, and they creep toward the stables where the mastiff's growls rumble like thunder. Holmes tosses the meat, and the dog lunges for it, its chain rattling but holding. Quickly, Watson, Holmes whispers, leading them to a side door. Violet, mentioned in her sketch. They slip inside, the air heavy with polish and secrets. The house is silent, save for a faint creak from upstairs. Holmes' lantern casts flickering shadows, revealing a grand hall with portraits of stern-faced Rucastles, a family with secrets. Holmes murmurs, his eyes scanning for clues. They find Violet in the drawing room, her face pale, her auburn hair now cropped short under Rucastle's orders. Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson, she whispers, her eyes wide. I heard the humming again, louder, from the locked wing, and the man in the trees was there today, staring. Holmes nods, his mind racing. Describe him, Miss Hunter. Violet hesitates, tall, dark-haired with a sad face almost desperate. Rucastle sent me away when he saw him. Holmes' eyes narrow. A suitor, perhaps, kept at bay by your charade. He examines the drawing-room window where Violet sits, in the blue dress, noting its view of the lawn and trees. Someone watches you to believe Alice is free, he says, but she's in that wing. Holmes leads them upstairs, following Violet's sketch to the locked wing's door. Near a narrow staircase, the air grows colder and a faint humming drifts through the walls, a soft, mournful tune. Watson grips his revolver. Someone's there, Holmes. Holmes tests the door. Its lock heavy and new. A prison indeed, he murmurs, pulling out his lock-picking tools. The lock clicks open, but footsteps echo below Rucastle's booming voice calling for Violet. Hide. Holmes hisses, and they duck into a closet as Rucastle storms. Up, his face red with suspicion. Miss Hunter, where are you? He bellows. Checking the drawing room. Violet whispers, he checks on me every night. Holmes nods, his plan forming. We wait, then enter the wing. Once Rucastle retreats, Holmes picks the lock again, and they slip into the wing, a dark corridor with a single barred door. The humming stops, replaced by a soft gasp. Holmes raises his lantern, revealing a small room with a barred window and a young woman, her auburn hair long and tangled, her face pale but striking. Alice Rucastle, Holmes says softly. She nods, her eyes fearful. My father locked me here to keep me from Carlo, she whispers, naming her suitor. He wants my inheritance. Watson's jaw drops. Inheritance. That's why the charade. Holmes nods, helping Alice stand. Rucastle uses Violet to fool Carlo, making him think you're free. They hear a growl outside. The mastiff, freed from its chain, snarls at the window. Rucastle knows we're here, Holmes says, his voice urgent. He locks the door, buying time, and questions Alice. Your father fears Carlo will claim you and your money, Holmes says. Alice nods, explaining Rucastle's debts and her late mother's fortune tied to her marriage. Carlo waits in. The trees, she says, but father's dangerous. A loud thud shakes the door. Rucastle with Tola, trying to break in. Holmes searches for an escape, finding a loose panel in the wall leading to the stables. Quickly, he urges, guiding Alice and Violet through as Watson holds the door. They emerge near the stables, the mastiff lunging but slowed by the meat. Holmes leads them to the woods where a tall, dark-haired man Carlo waits, his face lighting up. At Alice's sight, "You're safe," he cries, embracing her. Holmes pulls them into the shadows as Rucastle's shouts echo behind. We must get to Winchester, Holmes says, before Rucastle rallies his men. They flee through the trees, the fog rolling in, hiding their escape. Holmes' mind races, piecing together Rucastle's scheme, locking Alice to control her. Fortune, using Violet as a decoy to fool Carlo. In Winchester, they find a safe in, and Holmes wires Inspector Lestrade at Scotland Yard, detailing Rucastle's crimes. Kidnapping and fraud, Holmes says, enough to arrest him. Alice confirms her story, and Carlo, a merchant, vows to protect her. Violet looks shaken but relieved. I was part of his game, she says. Holmes pats her shoulder. You were our key, Miss Hunter. A telegram from Lestrade arrives, promising a raid on the Copper Beeches. But Holmes' eyes remain sharp. Rucastle's desperate now, he murmurs, and desperate men are dangerous. The Hampshire night closes in, the fog a shield and a threat. Holmes knows Rucastle won't give up easily, and the mastiff's growls echo in his mind. The Copper Beeches' secrets are unraveling, but the game isn't over. We're racing through the shadows of the Copper Beeches, with Holmes freeing Alice and dodging Rucastle's wrath. Will Rucastle strike back? Is the danger over? Stick with us for Chapter 4, where Holmes faces a vengeful foe and uncovers the final pieces of this chilling puzzle. If you're hooked on this Victorian mystery, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. What's Rucastle's next move? Let's solve this with Holmes. The Hampshire night wraps the sleepy town of Winchester in a thick fog, its damp chill seeping into the small inn where Sherlock Holmes, Dr. John Watson, Violet Hunter, Alice Rucastle, and her suitor Carlo hide from the wrath of Jephro Rucastle. It's the spring of 1890, and their daring escape from the Copper Beeches, where Alice was imprisoned to control her inheritance, has left Rucastle's sinister plot in tatters. Holmes sits by a flickering lamp, his sharp eyes scanning Violet's sketch of the estate. While Watson checks his revolver, his face tense. Holmes, Rucastle won't let this go. Watson says, his voice low, he's got that mastiff and... Tola, what if they come after us? Holmes' lips curve into a faint smile, his tone calm but edged with steel. A cornered beast is dangerous, Watson, but Hercule Poirot pardon, Sherlock Holmes knows how to tame it. Tonight, we face Rucastle's vengeful pursuit. The clues Violet's bizarre job, Rucastle's letter. The blue dress, the chained mastiff, the man in the trees, the locked wing, Alice's humming, and her inheritance point to a desperate man who'll stop at nothing to keep his secrets. The fog outside hums with danger, and Holmes is ready to outwit a vengeful foe. Holmes begins by reviewing the situation, his mind dissecting the escape. Rucastle locked Alice to control her. Mother's fortune, he murmurs, using Violet as a decoy to fool Carlo into thinking Alice was free. Watson nods, glancing at Alice, who sits close to Carlo, her face pale but resolute. But now he knows we've freed her, Watson says, he'll come for her and us. Holmes' eyes gleam. Exactly, Watson. Rucastle's desperation is our advantage. He'll act rashly. Violet, still shaken, adds, Mr. Rucastle was furious when he caught me near the wing, and that dog is vicious. Holmes pats the slab of meat in his bag, used to distract the mastiff. The dog is a tool. Miss Hunter, like the blue dress, we'll use it against him. A knock at the inn's door startles them, and Holmes signals silence. It's a messenger with a telegram from Inspector Lestrade. Raid on Copper Beeches. Planned for dawn. Rucastle fled. Tola drunk. Wife vanished. Stay safe. Holmes' brow furrows. Fled. He's hunting us. Carlo, a tall man with a determined jaw, speaks up. Rucastle wants Alice's money. He'll kill to keep it. Alice clutches Carlo's hand, her voice soft. My father's cruel. He locked me for years, saying I'd ruin him if I married. Holmes nods, his mind racing. Your inheritance, Miss Rucastle, is the key. He needs you captive or dead to claim it. Holmes pulls out Violet's sketch, noting the estate's layout, stables near the locked wing, a back gate to the woods, and a road to Winchester. Rucastle will track us here, he says, but we'll be ready. He sends Carlo to scout the inn's surroundings, while Watson checks the windows. Violet whispers, I saw Tola with a rifle once. They're armed, Mr. Holmes. Holmes' smile is grim. Armed, yes, but predictable. We set a trap. He plans to lure Rucastle to the inn, using Alice as bait, safely hidden, of course. Watson looks alarmed. That's risky, Holmes. Holmes' eyes blaze. Risk, Watson, is where the truth triumphs. As midnight nears, Carlo returns, his face tense. I saw a man in the fog big, like Rucastle near the stables across the street, and a dog's growl. Holmes nods, his plan snapping into place. He instructs Alice and Violet to stay in a locked room upstairs, guarded by the innkeeper, a burly man loyal to Holmes' coin. Watson, Carlo, we patrol, Holmes says, slipping lock-picking tools into his coat. They step into the fog, the air thick and cold. the distant growl of the mastiff sending a chill down Watson's spine. Holmes tosses another piece of meat toward the stables, quieting the dog momentarily. Rucastle's close, he whispers. His lantern dimmed to avoid detection. They spot a hulking figure in the fog. Rucastle, his face twisted with rage, clutching a pistol. Toller stumbles behind, drunk but holding a rifle, the mastiff straining at a leash. Holmes signals Watson and Carlo to flank them, using the fog as cover. "Mr. Rucastle," Holmes calls, stepping forward, his voice sharp. "Your game is over. Surrender." Rucastle laughs, a booming, manic sound. "You think you've won, Holmes. Alice is mine." He fires, the bullet grazing a wall as Holmes ducks. Watson tackles Toller, disarming him, while Carlo wrestles the mastiff's leash, tying it to a post. Holmes lunges, knocking Rucastle's pistol away with his cane, but Rucastle swings a fist, grazing Holmes' shoulder. The scuffle is fierce, but brief. Watson cuffs Toller with a rope from the stables, and Carlo helps Holmes pin Rucastle, who snarls, "You'll never take me." Holmes finds a letter in Rucastle's pocket, addressed to Mrs. Toller, instructing her to secure the funds if he fails. "Your wife's part of this," Holmes says, his voice cold. Rucastle's eyes narrow, but he stays silent. The mastiff, now loose, lunges, but Holmes tosses the last of the meat, distracting it long enough for Carlo to chain it again. Watson pants, his revolver still drawn. "That was too close, Holmes." Holmes' smile is steely. "Close, Watson, but we have him." They drag Rucastle and Toller to the inn, locking them in a storeroom until Lestrade's men arrive. Holmes examines the latter. Its hurried scrawl mentioning a bank in London holding Alice's inheritance. Mrs. Toller fled to secure it, Holmes murmurs. "We must act fast." He questions Rucastle, who spits defiance. "Alice's money is mine." He snarls. Holmes turns to Alice, safe upstairs. "Your inheritance is safe, Miss Rucastle, once we stop Mrs. Toller." Carlo vows to marry Alice, securing her fortune legally. Violet, shaken but brave, says, "I'm glad I helped, Mr. Holmes." Holmes pats her shoulder. "Your courage broke this case, Miss Hunter." Holmes wires Lestrade, urging him to intercept Mrs. Toller at the London bank. "She's the last. Peace," he tells Watson. The inn's lamp flickers, casting shadows as Holmes pieces together Rucastle's scheme, locking Alice to forge her signature, using Violet to fool Carlo. But a new worry nags him. Mrs. Toller's desperate, he says, and desperation breeds danger. The fog outside thickens, hiding threats yet unseen. Holmes knows the case isn't closed until the money is safe. We're racing through the foggy Hampshire night, with Holmes capturing Rucastle but facing Mrs. Toller's escape. Will he secure Alice's fortune? Is the Copper Beeches mystery solved? Stick with us for Chapter 5, where Holmes C.H. The fog blankets London like a heavy cloak, its damp fingers curling around the gaslit streets as Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson race from Winchester back to their Baker Street flat, the weight of the Copper Beeches mystery pressing hard. It's a tense spring morning in 1890, and their capture of Jephro Rucastle and his butler Toller has freed Alice Rucastle. But her inheritance remains at risk, with Mrs. Toller, the maid, fleeing to secure the funds. Holmes clutches the letter found in Rucastle's pocket. It's scrawled orders to Mrs. Toller hinting at a London bank. "Holmes, we've got Rucastle, but Mrs. Toller could ruin Alice yet," Watson says, his voice tight as their cab rattles through the fog. Holmes' sharp eyes gleam, his tone calm but edged with urgency. "A loose thread, Watson, but Sherlock Holmes will tie it. Today, we chase Mrs. Toller and end Rucastle's scheme. The clues Violet Hunter's bizarre job, the blue dress, the chained mastiff, the man in the trees, Alice's imprisonment, her inheritance. And now the letter to Mrs. Toller point to a final desperate grab for money. The city hums with danger, and Holmes is ready to outwit the last conspirator. Holmes begins by re-examining the letter. Its hurried words instructing Mrs. Toller to secure the funds at the London and County Bank. Mrs. Toller is no mere maid, he murmurs, his fingers tapping the paper. She's Rucastle's accomplice, perhaps his equal in this plot. Watson frowns, settling into his chair at One-by. A maid forging papers? That's bold, Holmes. Holmes nods, his mind racing. Bold, yes, but greed drives boldness. Rucastle locked Alice to control her fortune, using Violet to fool Carlo. Mrs. Toller's role is to steal it. He suspects she's headed to the bank to forge Alice's signature, claiming the inheritance before Lestrade's raid exposes the scheme. We must beat her there, Holmes says, checking his watch. Holmes sends a telegram to Inspector Lestrade, urging him to alert the bank's manager. Mrs. Toller will act today, he tells Watson. She knows Rucastle's caught. Watson grips his revolver, his face grim. What if she's armed, like Toller was? Holmes' smile is faint. Armed or not, Watson, she's desperate, and desperation is our ally. He pulls out Violet's sketch of the Copper Beeches, recalling Mrs. Toller's nervous demeanour. She's cunning, Holmes says, but not invisible. He digs through his files, finding a photo from a Winchester contact, a grainy image of the Tollers, showing Mrs. Toller as a thin woman with sharp eyes and a tight bun. This is our quarry, he says, slipping it into his coat. They head to the London and County Bank, a grand building in the city's financial district, its marble halls bustling with clerks. Holmes meets the manager, Mr. Baxter, a nervous man with spectacles. Mr. Holmes, we've had no sign of Mrs. Toller, Baxter says, checking his ledgers. Holmes shows the letter and describes her thin, sharp-eyed, likely posing as Alice. Rucastle. She'll use forged papers, Holmes warns. Watch for her. Baxter nods, assigning a clerk to alert them if a woman matching her description appears. Holmes and Watson take a position near the bank's entrance, blending into the crowd, their eyes scanning every face. The fog outside swirls, hiding potential threats. As noon approaches, Watson spots a woman in a grey cloak, her face half hidden, entering the bank. Holmes, that's her. He whispers, noting her sharp eyes. Holmes follows, his cane tapping softly. Inside, Mrs. Toller approaches a teller, presenting papers with a confident smile. I'm Alice Rucastle, she says, her voice steady. I need to access my account. Holmes steps forward, his tone sharp. A fine performance. Mrs. Toller, but the game is up. She freezes, her eyes darting, then bolts for the door. Watson tackles her, pinning her as Baxter calls for guards. The papers fall, revealing a forged signature, Alice's name in Mrs. Toller's hand. You're done, Holmes says. His voice cold. They escort Mrs. Toller to a back room where she glares, defiant. Rucastle promised me a cut, she spits. The girl's money was ours. Holmes examines the forged papers, noting their precision. You're skilled, madam, but not skilled enough. He questions her, learning Rucastle planned to drain Alice's account, using Violet's charade to buy time. He said Carlo would give up. Mrs. Toller sneers, but you ruined it. Watson's jaw tightens. You locked a girl away for money. Holmes' eyes narrow. And you'll pay for it. He finds a small key in her pocket, engraved with a bank seal. To a safe deposit box, he murmurs, holding more evidence. Holmes and Baxter open the box, finding documents, letters between Rucastle and a lawyer, detailing plans to forge Alice's will. Proof of fraud, Holmes says, pocketing them. Mrs. Toller's defiance cracks, her shoulders slumping. I had no choice, Rucastle forced me, she claims, but Holmes shakes his head. You chose greed, madam. He hands her to Lestrade's men, who arrive to take her into custody. The bank manager confirms Alice's fortune is secure, and Holmes wires Carlo and Alice in Winchester, ensuring they can claim it legally. The girl's safe now, Watson says, relieved. Holmes nods, but his eyes remain sharp. The plot is foiled, Watson, but Rucastle's reach may linger. Back at 1B, Holmes studies the forged papers, noting a faint watermark, a crest linked to a London solicitor, Mr. Fowler. Rucastle had help. He murmurs, "This solicitor may know more." Watson looks puzzled. "Another conspirator. I thought we'd got them all." Holmes lights his pipe, the smoke curling like his thoughts. "A scheme this deep leaves ripples, Watson. Fowler may be a loose end." He plans to visit the solicitor, suspecting he drafted the forged will. The fog outside Baker Street thickens, mirroring the case's final shadows. Holmes knows the Copper Beeches mystery is nearly solved, but one last thread remains. We're racing through London's foggy streets, with Holmes catching Mrs. Toller and securing Alice's fortune. Is the case closed, or does Fowler hide more secrets? Stick with us for Chapter 6, where Holmes digs into the final threads of Rucastle's scheme. If you're hooked on this Victorian whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment. Below, who's Fowler working for? Let's solve this with Holmes. The London fog swirls like a restless spirit, casting eerie shadows across Baker Street as Sherlock Holmes sits in his armchair at 1B. His sharp eyes fixed on the forged papers from Mrs. Toller's safe deposit box. It's a damp spring evening in 1890, and the Copper Beeches case sparked by Violet Hunter's bizarre job, and Jephro Rucastle's plot to control his daughter Alice's inheritance has taken a new turn, with the discovery of a solicitor, Mr. Fowler, linked to the scheme. Dr. John Watson, his loyal friend, paces by the fire, clutching the bank key found in Mrs. Toller's pocket. "Holmes, we've got Rucastle, Toller, and his wife. Surely it's over," Watson says, his voice tinged with hope. Holmes' lips curve into a faint smile, his tone calm but sharp as a blade. "Not yet, Watson. A man like Rucastle weaves a wide web, and Mr. Fowler is a thread we must pull. Tonight, we uncover the solicitor's secret. The clues: Violet's strange job, Rucastle's letter, the blue dress, the chained mastiff, the man in the trees, Alice's imprisonment, her inheritance, Carlo's role, the forged papers, the bank key, and now Fowler's crest point to a deeper conspiracy. The fog outside hums with mystery, and Holmes is ready to tie up the final loose end. Holmes begins by examining the forged papers. They watermark a crest with a lion and quill, tying them to Fowler's law firm in Lincoln's. In "This solicitor drafted Rucastle's fake will," he murmurs, his fingers tracing the crest. He's no innocent clerk. Watson frowns, settling into his chair. A lawyer in on it. That's bold. Holmes nods, his mind racing. Bold, yes, but greed blinds even the sharpest minds. Fowler helped Rucastle forge Alice's signature to steal her fortune. He suspects Fowler may know more about Rucastle's plans, perhaps even other victims. The letter to Mrs. Toller instructing her to secure the funds mentioned Fowler's firm, and Holmes believes he holds the key to the scheme's full scope. We visit him tomorrow. Holmes says, but we must be cautious. Holmes pulls out his files, searching for details on Fowler. He finds a clipping from a legal journal, describing Mr. Edmund Fowler as a respected solicitor with a knack for estate planning, but also rumors of shady clients, a man of two faces. Holmes murmurs, noting Fowler's address in Lincoln's, in Fields. Watson looks uneasy. If he's tied to Rucastle, he could be dangerous. Holmes' eyes gleam. Dangerous, perhaps, but cornered men make mistakes. He plans to confront Fowler, posing as a client to gauge his involvement. Will test his nerves. Holmes says, and nerves betray secrets. He sends a telegram to Inspector Lestrade, asking him to check Fowler's records for ties to Rucastle or other frauds. The next morning, Holmes and Watson head to Lincoln's Inn, the fog parting to reveal grand buildings buzzing with lawyers. Fowler's office is a polished suite, its walls lined with law books and a faint smell of ink. Fowler, a thin man with a pinched face and wire-rimmed glasses, greets them warily. "Mr. Holmes." "Dr. Watson, to what do I owe this visit?" he asks, his voice smooth but his hands fidgeting. Holmes, posing as a client seeking estate advice, smiles blandly. "Monsieur Fowler, we hear you're skilled with inheritances, like that of Miss Alice Rucastle." Fowler's eyes flicker, his smile tightening. "I know no such name," he says, but his fingers clutch a pen to hard. Holmes notices a locked drawer, its key dangling from Fowler's watch chain, engraved with the same lion-ankle crest. Holmes presses gently, his questions sharp. "You've handled papers for a Hampshire estate. The Copper Beeches, none?" Fowler's face pales, but he recovers, laughing. "You're mistaken, sir. I deal with many clients." Watson, catching Holmes' signal, distracts Fowler with talk of investments, allowing Holmes to slip a glance at a ledger on the desk. It lists payments from Rucastle, marked CB Trust, Copper Beeches, proof, Holmes murmurs. Memorizing the entries, Fowler notices, his voice sharp. "You're no client, Holmes." He reaches for the drawer, but Holmes' cane taps. "It's shut." "A fine crest," Holmes says, pointing to the key. "It matches forged papers we found." Fowler bolts for the door, but Watson blocks him, grabbing his arm. They escort Fowler to a back room where he slumps, sweating. "I only drafted papers," he stammers. "Rucastle paid me." Holmes' eyes narrow. "You forged a will to steal Miss Rucastle's inheritance." "What else?" Fowler hesitates, then spills. Rucastle hired him to manage other estates, forging documents for 2 more heiresses, now missing. He had plans, Fowler says, big plans with others. Watson's jaw drops. Others, a syndicate. Holmes' mind races, recalling Rucastle's cunning. Not the big four, Watson, but a smaller web of greed. He finds a notebook in Fowler's drawer, listing names and payments, including a mysterious CH in London. Another player, Holmes murmurs, pocketing it. Holmes hands Fowler to Lestrade's men, who arrive to arrest him. The notebook's entries suggest Rucastle was part of a larger network, using Fowler to target wealthy heirs. "CH is our next lead," Holmes tells Watson, "but we must protect Alice first." He wires Carlo and Alice in Winchester, confirming their safety and the bank's cooperation to secure her fortune. Violet, still at the inn, sends a note thanking Holmes for saving her from Rucastle's scheme. "Your courage, Miss Hunter, was the spark," Holmes replies. But the notebook's mention of CH nags him a shadow of a bigger plot. Back at Titawunbi, Holmes studies the notebook, its cryptic entries hinting at a London contact, possibly a financier or another solicitor. Rucastle didn't act alone, he says, his pipe smoke curling. This CH may hold the final key. Watson looks worried. "More conspirators. I thought we'd finished this." Holmes' smile is grim. "A case like this, Watson, has layers. We peel one more." The fog outside Baker Street thickens, hiding secrets yet to be uncovered. Holmes knows the Copper Beeches case is nearly closed, but one last mystery lingers. We're unraveling the final threads of the Copper Beeches, with Holmes catching Fowler but finding a new shadow in CH who's behind Rucastle's network. Is Alice truly safe? Stick with us for Chapter 7, where Holmes hunts the mysterious CH in a race to end this sinister plot. If you're hooked on this Victorian whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe and drop a comment below. What's CH hiding? Let's solve this with Holmes. The London fog clings to Baker Street like a stubborn ghost, its damp chill seeping into the warm glow of Totowonby as Sherlock Holmes leans over his desk. The cryptic notebook from Fowler's office open before him. It's a tense spring evening in 1890, and a Copper Beeches case sparked by Violet Hunter's eerie job and Jephro Rucastle's plot to steal his daughter Alice's inheritance has revealed a deeper web with the arrest of Rucastle, Toller, Mrs. Toller, and the solicitor. Fowler, Dr. John Watson, his loyal friend, paces by the fire, clutching the notebook's page marked CH, a mysterious figure tied to Rucastle's schemes. Holmes, we've got the main players. But who's this CH? Watson asks, his voice edged with unease. Holmes' sharp eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp as a knife. A shadow in the fog, Watson, but Sherlock Holmes will bring it to light. Tonight, we hunt the elusive CH and unravel Rucastle's network. The clues: Violet's strange job, the blue dress, the chained mastiff, the man in the trees, Alice's imprisonment, her inheritance, the forged papers, the bank key, Fowler's confession, and now the notebook's mention of CH.2. A larger conspiracy. The city hums with hidden threats, and Holmes is ready to chase the final shadow. Holmes begins by studying the notebook. Its entries listing payments to CH for services linked to the Copper Beeches and to other estates. This CH is no mere accomplice, he murmurs, his fingers tracing the faded ink. He's a mastermind, perhaps Rucastle's equal. Watson frowns, settling into his chair. Another Rucastle? That's chilling, Holmes. Holmes nods, his mind racing. Rucastle targeted Alice's fortune, but Fowler's confession spoke of other heiresses. CH may be the architect of a wider fraud. He suspects CH is a financier or lawyer, pulling strings from London's shadows. The notebook's payments, marked with dates and sums, suggest a well-funded operation. We find CH. Holmes says, and we end this. Holmes pulls out his files, searching for clues to CH's identity. He finds a report from Inspector Lestrade about recent estate frauds in London, one mentioning a Charles Harrow, a wealthy investor with ties to shady solicitors. Harrow, Holmes murmurs, noting the initials match CH of financier, like Rucastle's number 2 was meant to be, but this is no big four. Watson looks puzzled. A financier? How's he connected? Holmes' eyes gleam. Money. Watson. Harrow likely funded Rucastle's schemes, taking a cut of stolen inheritances. He cross-references the notebook with Lestrade's report, finding Harrow's name linked to a firm in the city. Harrow & Co., known for discreet investments. Holmes sends a telegram to Lestrade asking for Harrow's address and known associates. We visit him discreetly, he tells Watson. Harrow won't expect us. Watson grips his revolver, his face grim. If he's like Rucastle, he'll be dangerous. Holmes' smile is faint. Dangerous, yes, but arrogance betrays. We'll use it. He plans to pose as a potential client, seeking investment advice to test Harrow's nerves. The fog outside thickens, mirroring the case's complexity. Holmes recalls Violet's courage and Alice's rescue, knowing CH is the final piece to protect them fully. The next morning, Holmes and Watson head to the city, where Harrow & Co.'s office towers among grand banks. The air buzzes with clerks and money, but Holmes' senses are alert. Inside, they meet Charles Harrow, a broad-shouldered man with a slick smile and cold eyes, his gold watch chain glinting with a lion antler charm matching Fowler's crest. Mr. Holmes. Dr. Watson, a pleasure, Harrow says, his voice smooth but wary. Holmes, posing as a client, smiles blandly. Monsieur Harrow, we seek investments. Perhaps like those for the Copper Beeches. Harrow's smile freezes, his hand brushing the watch chain. I don't know that estate, he says, but his eyes dart to a locked cabinet. Holmes presses gently, his questions sharp. "You've worked with Mr. Fowler, none, on estate matters." Harrow laughs. "'T loud. Fowler, a minor acquaintance." Watson, catching Holmes' signal, distracts Harrow with talk of stocks, allowing Holmes to glance at a desk calendar. It lists a meeting with Jr. Jephro Rucastle weeks ago. Proof. Holmes murmurs, his heart racing. Harrow notices, his voice sharp. "You're no investor, Holmes." He reaches for the cabinet, but Holmes' cane taps it shut. "A fine charm," Holmes says, pointing to the watch chain. "It matches papers we found, forged ones." Harrow bolts, shoving a clerk aside, but Watson grabs him, pinning him against the wall. In a private room, Harrow sweats, his confidence crumbling. "I only advised Rucastle," he claims, but Holmes holds up the notebook. "You funded his frauds, monsieur, and others." "Who else?" Harrow hesitates, then spills. "He bankrolled Rucastle and 2 other men, targeting heiresses across England, splitting the profits. I didn't touch the girls," he insists, "just the money." Watson's jaw tightens. "You're as bad as Rucastle." Holmes finds a ledger in the cabinet, detailing payments to Rucastle and others. "Sign CH, your court," Holmes says, his voice cold. Harrow slumps, defeated, as Lestrade's men arrive to arrest him. Back at 1B, Holmes examines the ledger, its entries confirming Harrow's role as the financier behind Rucastle's network. 3 heiresses, all robbed, he murmurs, noting their names. "We must alert Lestrade." Watson looks relieved. "That's it, then, the case is done." Holmes' eyes narrow, almost Watson. Harrow's ledger mentions a consultant, no name, but a London address. He suspects a final player, perhaps a mastermind guiding Harrow. The fog outside Baker Street swirls, hiding secrets yet to be uncovered. Holmes wires Lestrade to trace the address, knowing the Copper Beeches case is close to its end but not quite. We're peeling back the final layers of the Copper Beeches mystery, with Holmes catching Charles Harrow but finding a new shadow in a nameless consultant. Is the web fully unraveled? Who's left in Rucastle's network? Stick with us for Chapter 8, where Holmes chases the last conspirator in a tense London showdown. If you're hooked on this Victorian whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Who's this consultant? Let's solve this with Holmes. The London fog weaves a thick veil over Baker Street, its damp chill creeping into the warm glow of 1B as Sherlock Holmes sits by the fire, his sharp eyes poring over Charles Harrow's ledger, its cryptic reference to a consultant at a London address burning in his mind. It's a tense spring evening in 1890, and the Copper Beeches case sparked by Violet Hunter's eerie job, and Jephro Rucastle's plot to steal his daughter Alice's inheritance has unraveled a web of greed with Rucastle, Toller, Mrs. Toller, and the financier Harrow now in custody. Dr. John Watson, his loyal friend, paces near the window, clutching the ledger's page. "Holmes, we've got the main players, Rucastle, Harrow, the Tollers. Who's this consultant?" Watson asks, his voice tight with unease. Holmes' lips curve into a faint smile, his tone calm but sharp as a blade. "A shadow behind the shadows, Watson, but Sherlock Holmes will drag it into the light. Tonight, we hunt the consultant and cut the final thread of Rucastle's web. The clues: Violet's strange job, the blue dress, the chained mastiff, the man in the trees, Alice's imprisonment, her inheritance, the forged papers, the bank key, Fowler's confession, Harrow's ledger, and now the consultant's address point to a mastermind lurking in London's underbelly. The fog outside hums with secrets, and Holmes is ready to end this mystery. Holmes begins by examining the ledger. Its entry for the consultant listing a single address: 13 Raven Lane, a seedy corner of Whitechapel. This is no ordinary ally. He murmurs, his fingers tracing the ink. The consultant guided Rucastle's schemes, perhaps orchestrating others. Watson frowns, settling into his chair. A mastermind above Harrow. That's dark, Holmes. Holmes nods, his mind racing. Dark, yes, but cunning. Rucastle targeted Alice's fortune. Fowler forged papers. Harrow funded it. This consultant planned it all. He suspects the consultant is a professional criminal, possibly a fixer for London's wealthy rogues. The ledger's payments to CH, and others suggest a network targeting heiresses across England. We find this man, Holmes says, and we stop him for good. Holmes pulls out his files, searching for clues to the consultant's identity. He finds a police report from Lestrade mentioning a Whitechapel fixer known only as the broker, suspected of arranging frauds for high-paying clients. The initials don't match, Holmes murmurs. But aliases are common. Watson looks uneasy. Whitechapel, that's a rough place, Holmes. Holmes' eyes gleam. Rough, yes, but secrets hide in shadows. We'll flush him out. He plans to visit Raven Lane, posing as a client seeking discreet services to test the consultant's guard. He sends a telegram to Lestrade, asking for backup near Whitechapel. We'll need eyes, Holmes says, but we move alone first. The next evening, Holmes and Watson venture into Whitechapel. The fog thick and the streets alive with hawkers and shadowy figures. Raven Lane is a narrow alley, its grimy buildings leaning close. Number 13 is a nondescript door, its brass knocker, tarnished but engraved with a faint lion ankle crest matching Fowler's papers. And Harrow's watch chain, the same network, Holmes whispers, his heart racing. They knock, and a weary man with sharp eyes and a thin mustache answers, introducing himself as Mr. Clarence Holt. Gentlemen, what business? He asks, his voice smooth but cautious. Holmes, posing as a client, smiles blandly. Monsieur Holt, we seek advice on delicate estate matters like those at the Copper Beeches. Holt's eyes flicker, his hand tightening on the door. Holmes presses gently, his questions sharp. You've worked with Mr. Harrow, none? And perhaps a Mr. Rucastle. Holt laughs too quick. Never heard of them. I'm a simple consultant. Watson, catching Holmes' signal, distracts Holt with talk of investments, allowing Holmes to glance at a desk inside. A ledger, half open, lists payments marked CB, Copper Beeches, proof. Holmes murmurs, his eyes scanning for more. Holt notices, his voice sharp. You're no client. Holmes! He pulls a knife, but Watson grabs his wrist, twisting it until the blade clatters. Holmes finds a locked box under the desk, its key on Holt's chain and other lion ankle crest. You're the broker, Holmes says, his voice cold. They tie Holt to a chair, and Holmes picks the box's lock, revealing letters linking him to Rucastle, Harrow, and to other frauds targeting heiresses. You planned it all, Holmes says, holding up a letter signed CH. Holt's alias. Holt sneers. Defiant. You can't touch me, Holmes. My clients are powerful. Watson's jaw tightens. You ruined lives for money. Holmes questions him, learning Holt arranged frauds for a cut, using Rucastle's greed to trap Alice and others. I only advised, Holt claims, but the letters detail his role as mastermind, connecting wealthy rogues across London. Holmes finds a final clue, a note mentioning a final job at a Kent estate. Another victim, he murmurs, pocketing it. Holmes hands Holt to Lestrade's men, who arrive to raid Raven Lane. The letters confirm Holt's role as the broker, orchestrating Rucastle's network. You've broken it, Holmes. Lestrade says, cuffing Holt. No more heiresses will suffer. Holmes nods, but his eyes remain sharp. The Kent job worries me, Watson. We must act fast. He wires Carlo and Alice in Winchester, ensuring their safety, and confirms with the bank that Alice's fortune is secure. Violet sends a note, grateful for her role in exposing Rucastle. Your courage, Miss Hunter, was the spark. Holmes replies, but the Kent note nags him a final loose end in this dark web. Back at 2 to 1b. Holmes studies the Kent note, its vague details hinting at another heiress in danger. Holt's network is broken, he tells Watson, but this job may already be in motion. Watson looks alarmed. Another Alice, we can't let it happen. Holmes lights his pipe, the smoke curling like his thoughts. We won't, Watson. We head to Kent. The fog outside Baker Street thickens, hiding dangers yet unseen. Holmes knows the Copper Beeches case is nearly closed, but one last shadow remains. We're chasing the final shadow of the Copper Beeches mystery. With Holmes catching the broker but finding a new threat in Kent, is another heiress in danger? Can Holmes stop the last plot? Stick with us for Chapter 9. Where Holmes races to Kent to unravel the final piece of this sinister web. If you're hooked on this Victorian whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe and drop a comment below. What's waiting in Kent? Let's solve this with Holmes. The spring air turns crisp as Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson board a train to Kent. The fog of London giving way to rolling green hills under a grey sky. It's April 1890. And the Copper Beeches case ignited by Violet Hunter's eerie job and Jephro Rucastle's plot to steal his daughter Alice's inheritance has unravelled a dark network with Rucastle, Toller, Mrs. Toller, the solicitor Fowler, and the financier Charles Harrow in custody, and Clarence Holt, the broker, exposed as the mastermind. Holmes clutches the note from Holt's box. Its cryptic mention of a final job at a Kent estate burning in his mind. Holmes, we've broken their web. Can there really be another victim? Watson asks. His voice tight as the train rattles along. Holmes' sharp eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp as a blade. One last thread. Watson and Sherlock Holmes will cut it. Today, we race to Kent to stop a new conspiracy. The clues: Violet's strange job, the blue dress, the chained mastiff, the man in the trees, Alice's imprisonment, her inheritance, the forged papers, the bank key, Fowler's confession, Harrow's ledger, Holt's letters, and now the Kent. No point to a final heiress in danger. The Kent countryside looms with secrets, and Holmes is ready to end this sinister plot. Holmes begins by studying the note. Its scrawled words mentioning a Miss Eleanor Grayson at Thornfield Manor. Kent, another heiress, he murmurs, his fingers tracing the ink. Holt planned this before we caught him. Watson frowns, gripping his revolver. Another Alice. That's grim Holmes. Holmes nods, his mind racing. Grim, yes, but Holt's network relied on pattern targeting young women with fortunes, using fraud to steal them. He suspects Eleanor is being manipulated, perhaps by a local accomplice Holt hired before his arrest. The note lists a contact, Mr. Vance, at Thornfield Manor with instructions to secure the estate. Vance is our man, Holmes says, but we must move fast. Holmes pulls out a Kent map, marking Thornfield Manor as secluded. Estate near Maidstone, 5 miles from the nearest village. Isolation Watson. Perfect for secrets. He murmurs. He recalls Holt's ledger, which mentioned payments to a V in Kent. Vance. Likely a lawyer or agent, Holmes says. Watson looks uneasy. If he's like Rucastle, he'll be dangerous. Holmes' smile is grim. Dangerous. Yes, but cornered. We'll pose as inspectors to catch him off guard. He sends a telegram to Inspector Lestrade, asking for records on Eleanor Grayson and any frauds in Kent. We need allies, Holmes says, but we act first. The train pulls into Maidstone, and Holmes and Watson hire a carriage to Thornfield Manor. Its tall chimneys rising against the dusk. The estate is grand but eerie, its windows dark except for one flickering light. Holmes' senses sharpen us. They approach, noting a locked gate and a quiet stable, no mastiff this time. But the silence feels heavy. They knock and a maid answers, her eyes nervous. "We're inspectors. Here to see Mr. Vance," Holmes says, his tone firm. The maid hesitates, then leads them to a study where a thin man with slick hair and a sharp suit waits Mr. Simon Vance. "Gentlemen, what's this about?" Vance asks, his voice smooth but his hands fidgeting. Holmes, posing as an inspector, smiles blandly. "Monsieur Vance, we investigate estate frauds like those at the Copper Beeches. You know Miss Grayson's affairs, non?" Vance's smile tightens, his eyes darting to a locked desk drawer. "I'm her guardian's advisor." He says, "All is in order." Holmes notices a letter on the desk. Its seal matching Holt's lion antquil crest. "Curious," Holmes says, pointing to it. "That crest ties to a known criminal." Vance laughs. "Too loud, a coincidence." Watson, catching Holmes' signal, distracts Vance with questions about the estate, allowing Holmes to glimpse. The letter's contents are planned to transfer Eleanor's funds to a false account. Holmes presses, his questions sharp. "You worked with Clarence Holt, non, on Miss Grayson's estate?" Vance's face pales, and he bolts for the door. But Watson grabs him, pinning him against a bookshelf. "You're caught." Watson growls. Holmes picks the drawer's lock, finding papers forging Eleanor's signature much like Alice's. "Another fraud," he murmurs, pocketing them. Vance struggles, snarling, "You can't prove anything." But Holmes holds up the letter, signed C.H. Holt's orders. He says, his voice cold, "You plan to rob Miss Grayson." They escort Vance to a parlor where Eleanor Grayson, a young woman with pale hair and wide eyes, enters, confused. "Mr. Vance said my guardian was ill," she says, her voice shaky. Holmes explains the plot, showing her the forged papers. "Your fortune was targeted, Miss Grayson, by a network we've broken." Eleanor gasps, clutching a locket. "My uncle trusted Vance." Holmes questions Vance, who admits Holt hired him to forge documents promising a cut of Eleanor's inheritance. "It was easy," Vance sneers. "She's naive." Watson's fist clenches, but Holmes stays calm, finding a final clue, a telegram in Vance's pocket. Sent from London, "Finish the job." C.H. Holmes hands Vance to Lestrade's men, who arrive to arrest him. The forged papers and telegram confirm the plot, and Eleanor's fortune is secured with the bank's help. "You saved me, Mr. Holmes," Eleanor says, her eyes grateful. Holmes nods, but his mind lingers on the telegram. Holt sent this before his arrest. He tells Watson, but who delivered it? Watson looks puzzled. "A courier. The net works. Done, isn't it?" Holmes' eyes narrow. Perhaps Watson, but loose ends linger. He wires Lestrade to trace the telegram's source, suspecting a final accomplice in London. Back at the inn in Maidstone, Holmes studies the papers, their precision echoing Rucastle's scheme. Holt's web is broken, he says, but this telegram suggests a shadow. The Kent night closes in, its silence heavy with questions. Holmes knows the Copper Beeches case is nearly solved, but one last mystery beckons. We're racing through Kent's shadows, with Holmes saving Eleanor Grayson but finding a lingering clue in a telegram. Is Holt's network truly finished? Who sent that message? Stick with us for Chapter 10, where Holmes faces the final twist in this chilling web. If you're hooked on this Victorian whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe and drop a comment. Below who's behind the telegram, let's solve this with Holmes. The London fog wraps Baker Street in a ghostly embrace, its damp chill seeping into the warm glow of Tutawonby as Sherlock Holmes sits by his desk. The cryptic telegram signed C.H. from Clarence Holt's plot clutched in his hand. It's a crisp April morning in 1890. And the Copper Beeches case ignited by Violet Hunter's eerie job and Jephro Rucastle's scheme to steal his daughter Alice's inheritance has unraveled a sinister network with Rucastle, Toller, Mrs. Toller, the solicitor Fowler, the financier Charles Harrow, and the mastermind the broker Holt now behind bars. The rescue of Eleanor Grayson in Kent stopped another fraud, but the telegram, sent just before Holt's arrest, hints at a final accomplice lurking in the shadows. Dr. John Watson, his loyal friend, paces by the fire, his face tense. "Holmes, we've caught the ringleaders. Surely this telegram's a dead end," he says, his voice hopeful but wary. Holmes' sharp eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp as a blade. One final knot, Watson and Sherlock Holmes will tie it tight. Today, we trace this telegram and end the Copper Beeches mystery for good. The clues: Violet's strange job, the blue dress, the chained mastiff, the man in the trees, Alice's imprisonment, her inheritance, the forged papers, the bank key, Fowler's confession, Harrow's ledger, Holt's letters, the Kent job, and now the telegram point to the last thread of a dark conspiracy. The city hums with secrets, and Holmes is ready to cut it clean. Holmes begins by studying the telegram, its Spitalfield's postmark and CH signature burning with significance. Sent hours before Holt's arrest, he murmurs his fingers. Tracing the paper, someone carried on his orders, unaware of his capture. Watson frowns, settling into his chair. A courier, or another mastermind. Holmes' lips curve faintly. A courier, Watson. But even pawns leave footprints. He suspects a low-level operative, likely a hired hand, delivered the telegram to ensure the Kent job's success. The lion-ankle crest on Holt's papers ties it to the network, and Holmes believes the sender is close, perhaps a clerk or thief in Spitalfields. We trace the source, he says, and we end this. Holmes digs through his files, finding a report from Inspector Lestrade about a Spitalfields telegraph clerk, Mr. Thomas Crane, known for handling shady messages. "Crane's our man," Holmes murmurs, noting the initials don't match CH. But aliases are common in Holt's web. Watson looks uneasy. A clerk? He's small fry, Holmes. Holmes' eyes gleam. Small fry swim in big waters, Watson. Crane will lead us to the end. He plans to confront Crane at the telegraph office, posing as a detective investigating fraud. He sends a telegram to Lestrade, requesting backup, and Crane's description: a thin man with a nervous tic and ink-stained fingers. "We move tonight," Holmes says, slipping his lock-picking tools into his coat as dusk falls. Holmes and Watson venture into Spitalfields, the fog thick and the streets buzzing with hawkers and shadows. The telegraph office is a grimy shop, its counter cluttered with wires and papers. Crane, a weary man with darting eyes, freezes when Holmes enters. "Mr. Crane, we investigate a telegram tied to a fraud at Thornfield Manor," Holmes says, his tone firm but calm. "You sent it, non?" Crane's hands tremble, his voice shaky. "I sent dozens of messages." Holmes holds up the telegram, its crest visible. "This bears a mark we know Clarence Holt's." Crane bolts for a back door, but Watson grabs him, pinning him against the counter. "Talk." Watson growls. Holmes finds a ledger listing messages for Holt, including the Kent telegram, signed CH. As a code, Crane cracks under pressure, sweating. "I just sent what she gave me," he cries. Holmes' eyes narrow. "She?" Crane nods, describing a woman, Mary Walsh, a petty thief who delivered the telegram, paid by Holt to act as his courier. "She didn't know he was caught," Crane says. "She works for coin, nothing more." Holmes finds a note in Crane's pocket, listing a meeting with Walsh at a Whitechapel tavern that night. "Our final link," Holmes murmurs, pocketing it. Watson looks relieved. "A thief. That's the end." Then, Holmes' smile is grim. "Almost, Watson. We must catch her. They head to the tavern, a smoky den filled with rough voices and flickering lamps. Holmes spots Walsh, a thin woman with sharp eyes and a tattered shawl, sitting alone, counting coins. "Miss Walsh," Holmes says, approaching, his voice low. "Your telegram to Kent failed." Halts in chains. Walsh's face pales and she tries to run, but Watson blocks her. "You're done," he says, his revolver ready. Holmes shows the telegram. It's crest damning. "You carried Holt's orders," he says. Walsh slumps, admitting she was hired to deliver messages, unaware of the full plot. "I needed the money," she pleads, handing over a small diary listing Holt's final instructions: no other jobs, no other players. "The network's dead," Holmes says, his voice calm. "You're the last." Holmes hands Walsh to Lestrade's men, who confirm her minor role as a courier. The diary proves Holt's web is fully broken, with no remaining conspirators. "You've done it." "Holmes," Lestrade says, clapping his shoulder. "Rucastle's gang is finished." Holmes nods, his eyes scanning the fog outside. A clean end. "Watson," he says, "but we stay vigilant." Back at 1B, he wires Carlo and Alice in Winchester, confirming their safety and marriage plans, securing Alice's fortune. Eleanor Grayson sends a letter, grateful for her rescue. Violet Hunter, now free, writes to thank Holmes. "Your courage, Miss Hunter, lit the spark." Holmes replies, his voice soft. The fog lifts and the Copper Beeches case closes, its shadows banished by Holmes' sharp mind. The fire crackles into 1B and Holmes lights his pipe, the smoke curling like his thoughts. "A simple case, Watson, yet layered with greed," he says. Watson smiles, relieved. "Simple? You saved 2 women and broke a crime ring." Holmes' eyes twinkle. "The game, Watson, is never simple, but always worth playing." The London fog fades and Baker Street glows with the triumph of justice. This is the thrilling end of the Copper Beeches mystery, with Holmes tying the final knot and dismantling Rucastle's web. What did you think of this foggy whodunit? Smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below who was your favorite villain. Share this video with friends, and let's keep the detective spirit alive with Holmes.